Hi, this is Marsha.
And this is Kelly.
We are the Two Ewes of Two Ewes Fiber Adventures. Thanks for stopping by.
You'll hear about knitting, spinning, dyeing, crocheting, and just about anything else we can think of as a way to play with string.
We blog and post show notes at twoewesfiberadventures.com.
And we invite you to join our Two Ewes Fiber Adventures group on Ravelry. I'm 100 Projects.
And I am betterinmotion.
We're both on Instagram and Ravelry, and we look forward to meeting you there.
Enjoy the episode. Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning, Marsha.
Well, how are you today?
I'm doing fine. As we were talking about earlier before we started the podcast, I thought I'd have a nice quiet morning to record, and apparently the city has to come inspect our roof work that we had done several weeks ago now, maybe months ago. Anyway, so there may be someone on the roof outside my window looking in as we're recording.
Okay.
If I suddenly scream in surprise, that's what happened.
Well, I have lots going on too. In fact, we're a little late recording because I was on the phone with the plumbers. I had the plumbing redone in the basement. Well, not completely redone, but I had a leaky waste pipe, so I had that replaced, and I'm having a new washer dryer delivered in July, and so they had to redo the plumbing for that. I'm relocating them, and that's been quite an endeavor. But the big waste pipe was leaking, so I was all excited to go down there. They were here 2 days. And the next morning I go down there to look at the floor to say, oh, it's going to be all nice and dry and everything. I won't have to have my 5-gallon bucket there anymore. And there's a cascade of water down the...
No.
So I called. I thought, well, maybe just one of their seals didn't seal or something. Come to find out that it's actually the 4-inch waste pipe that goes up, the vertical one that goes up between the two bathrooms. So I now have a hole in the wall of the main floor bathroom, and I cannot use the second floor bathroom, which is the one I use. So they're coming Friday. This is Wednesday. They're coming Friday to fix the pipe in the big 4-inch pipe in the bathroom wall on the main floor.
Well, that's not too long.
No, it's not too long, but it is a challenge living it. I didn't realize. Okay, this is going to make me sound very elitist when I say this, and very privileged what I'm going to say. I haven't lived in a house with one bathroom and multiple people for a long time. And so, I'm living with Ben is living with me right now. And so I have to run down in the morning. I have to run down to the bathroom, but he's in there.
Yeah.
And so what do you do?
A coffee can in the basement.
Worse than that.
I went out in
the backyard.
In the backyard, yes.
I went out in the bushes in the backyard and tried to find a place where the neighbors wouldn't see me. But I thought afterwards, maybe I should not have worn my bright red bathrobe.
Right, exactly. Like when we used to go to hunt tests, I learned when we used to go to hunt tests that was when I did not wear my white underwear. That's when you have to wear a darker colored underwear so that you're not flashing white in the bushes.
Do you remember your Civil War socks for Robert?
Yes.
Wasn't that part of the thing is they had to be a dark color because you didn't want to take your boots off and then be seen and shot. So anyway, oh dear.
You need a camo bathrobe.
That's probably way too much information. But anyway, I was delayed because my point of bringing all this up is I was delayed this morning because I was on the phone with the plumber. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Well,
yes.
The This Old House version of the Two Ewes Fiber Adventures podcast.
Yes, I know. Anyway. Yes, well, that probably was, probably the whole world did not need to know that I would. But desperate times call for desperate measures.
Exactly.
Well, after all of that, let's get to the project, shall we?
Yes. And you have some big news, huh?
Yes, I have big news. I finally finished the walk-along tee.
Yay!
Yay! Very excited. It fits great, and I really recommend the pattern. Now, it's true I didn't do it exactly.
Highly modified.
Actually, I really didn't modify it that much. I just really, what I did is I made the sleeves a little bit longer. Not because the pattern is either like cap sleeves or full length sleeves.
Yeah.
I just made the sleeves a little bit longer, but not full length. And then I just didn't add the sort of the look of having the sweater under a sweater look.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. But it's very nice, and I really like it.
All right.
So,
I saw the pictures. It looks really nice, I think.
Yeah.
I love the color. You'll have
do
to wear
too.
it. You have to now wear it to Seabrook.
Yes,
Since
I
it's
will. I'll wear it down
Mock Rocks, is that the name of the town or the beach?
Well, the town, the official town, I think Seabrook is actually in Pacific Beach is the name of the town. But the actual beach, I believe the Native American name is Mock Rocks.
Okay. And that's the name
I'm
of
not
your
100%
colorway.
Yeah, that's the name of my
To let
colorway.
everyone know why I suddenly made this divergence to the
Yes.
name of the town. And
But
the
Kelly,
beach.
I just want, are you on Ravelry? Can you see my, my picture?
I am not, but I can get there soon. Keep talking.
So, I want you to take a look at my picture. And I look at it and I really love the t-shirt. But it does, we've talked about this before. I believe I have a little pooling on the left breast. On this one. Remember I was talking about that in something else?
Yes.
So just take a look at this.
Let me look.
Nobody's commented, but I look at it and I thought, Now, when I wear it, I will not see it because I will be wearing it. But when I look at the photograph.
Oh, yes, you do. Just a bit.
Yes.
Okay, so pooling on the left breast and peeing in the garden in the same episode.
Oh my gosh.
We might have to have an explicit rating.
But wasn't there something there was
You have a little matching pooling going on the right hand side too.
So I started laughing because I thought, do you remember the endless discussion about how I was blending the yarn and I broke the
yarn
skeins apart? So much yarn management, and I have.
But it's really pretty, and I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, when you look at the picture of it hanging kind of flat on the dress form, it's different than when you actually are in it.
Yes, and I think I'll have to actually try it on and post another picture because that mannequin is not my dimensions necessarily. Mm-hmm. Oh well, best laid plans.
It just goes to show you that sometimes all that yarn management turns out to be no different than if you had just worked from one skein. I mean, who knows? It might not be, but.
Yeah, because it's hand dyed, and you can actually, if you look at it sort of below the pooling, there's a little sort of diagonal striping going on. Do you see that? Mm-hmm. It's just so again, it doesn't really bother me. I just think I find it kind of amusing, and I really don't understand how it happened because I was so careful and I had labeled everything, and that part where it happened. I'm not doing any shaping at that point. Right. I'm just doing around. And I also used that great technique, that helical knitting where you, now the helical knitting, I will say the point where you change yarns keeps moving around the sweater. Uh-huh. So because that point where you change. Yeah.
So that makes it a little different than if you had always changed in the same spot.
Yeah, and I don't know if that has something to do with it. I don't know.
Who knows? The people who do planned pooling might be able to tell you more about that, but I've never done
planned pooling.
Yeah, there's patterns for that where you remember we saw it at Stitches.
Oh, your sock. Well, yes, and then your socks you did for Dennis
the Bengal socks. Yeah.
Yes.
Now those were a little different because it was planned pooling, but then you also did short rows to turn around and go back the other way to make the point at the end of the stripe. Like, so where you because the tiger stripes don't go all the way around the tiger.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So anyway, yeah, very interesting. And I think your tee looks really nice. Your sweater turned out really good.
I do too.
All laughing aside.
Oh gosh. Okay, and then so I'm still spinning on the green and brown merino.
Okay.
I've just been working on the brown. Then what else? Oh, I started knitting. Well, I've been continuing to knit on my Drops Fabel socks. But the other night I had finished the t-shirt, and so I thought, oh, okay, I'll go pick up my socks and start knitting on them. And I thought, I went to measure them against I'm halfway down the foot of the second sock, and I went to measure it against the first sock to see how much further I had to go. And I thought, that's weird. Like the heel looks different. And then I realized I did not turn the heel.
Oh no. I've done that before.
And I was like, what is wrong with me? How did I not do that? That's so weird. And what's also really weird about it is I remember my, when I did the gusset, my numbers were way off. Anyway, I should have known. So now I have to rip back. Oh, well.
Yeah.
That's something to keep me busy, you know.
Start again.
It'll keep me off the streets, and out of bars. And then I forgot to put this in the show notes, Kelly, but what I'm knitting on right now is in fact, I looked it up. I cast this on probably 2 years ago. It's a shawl. It's just called Simple Shawl.
Oh, yeah.
It's from Hedgerow Yarns. And this was yarn that I bought down in San Francisco.
Oh, I'm looking at it right now. That's pretty.
Yeah.
It's kind of denim looking.
Yeah. And I bought this at Atelier Yarns in San Francisco. Actually, I bought it in 2017. And I think that was the time when I met you for Stitches West. And then I went into San Francisco.
Right.
And just went to some of the yarn shops. And I think that's where I bought that. Anyway, the colorway is called San Francisco Fog. That's why I love the colorway. And it was hand-dyed. And it just said on the label, Michael's CWD. So I don't know anything about them. He's not, there's really no information about that company. But anyway, it's very nice. It's kind of like denim. It reminds me of dirty jeans, that muddy jeans, because it has that denim blue, but it also has some brown. Yeah. Kind of a cocoa brown in there, like you have mud on your jeans.
Yeah, it's a pretty, I like it. It's a pretty color.
It's really nice. And it's kind of what I think is kind of nice about it is it's quite a kind of a neutral yarn, where a lot of the shawls I make have lots of color in them. Yeah. This one's kind of neutral-ish, which I think will be a nice... Let's see. When did I cast this on? Oh, I cast on in 2018.
Yeah, well, it'll be nice. Your point about it being a neutral is a good one, because I have a shawl that I made, oh man, way back when I first started spinning, and I didn't even really know how to make a shawl. I mean, I didn't have a pattern. I started at the bottom, and then I just made increases on the sides. Like I was doing, like I had a dishcloth pattern that did that, and I thought, I could do this for a shawl, so I did. So it's with my hand spun, but it's like 3 different colors of blue, that kind of blue gray, a blue gray, and then a more tealy kind of a blue. Anyway, it turned out really good, and I use that all the time, that shawl. I mean, it just it's just a good color with almost anything I'm wearing. I can grab it. Yeah. I think you'll be really happy with it once it's done. Yeah. Yeah. It's probably happy to be out of the knitting bag.
I know. Well, it's been, it's funny because it's been to Scotland, and I took it to Iceland.
Oh, it's kind of like the Pismo Beach socks. Yes. You're going to have to bring it with you now everywhere you go.
Yeah, yeah. And then I started swatching for another project, and it's the Atlas pullover by Jared Flood, and this is for my brother. Do you remember when you were up here, I think for the dye workshop that we did? Yeah. And we went over with our friend Janice over to Tolt, and Mark was our driver. And he bought this yarn for me to make a sweater. And so it's Navia Tradition.
Yeah, that's going to be a really pretty sweater. Colorwork yoke.
Yes. And so he likes color. So I think a lot of people would have reversed these colors, but he's using a really bright kind of grass Kelly green for the body. And then the color work, the color work is in that grass green, and then two other colors. In his case, he picked navy and a kind of a bright blue, a light, like robin's egg blue.
Yeah.
And so I did the swatch. I'm not really proficient at color work, so I'm going to need a little help on this. I think I'll be asking questions probably. You were great though, because I called you the other night when I was doing the swatch, because they said obviously you want to do the swatch in the stockinette, which is the main body of the sweater, and then it's a color work yoke, and then you want to do a swatch in the color work, which I did. But I was swatching, color work knit side and then purling back color work. And my comment to you is, isn't my gauge going to be off? Because the whole, when I do the sweater, the color work is all done in the round stockinette. So all on the knit side. And so you said what a lot of people do is you knit the right side, then slide your swatch to the other side and leave a huge long loop in the back and pick up the yarn and knit again.
Yeah.
So that's what I did, and it worked out a lot better. I think doing color work in a swatch is going to be very different than doing the actual sweater. It was very slippery because I made a pretty sizable swatch, but it's still not like having all of that weight of the sweater and all those stitches, to get any kind of rhythm.
Yeah.
So, but it looks pretty good. And I think this is a very well written pattern. And also when you get to the part where you're doing the color work, it tells you of the three colors that you're using, which one is supposed to be the dominant color. I'm assuming, and listeners can give me some feedback, that I'm assuming that when the dominant color is the one that if you are throwing, the dominant color is in your right hand. I'm assuming.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have to read up on that. Or as I say, if anybody wants to weigh in on it. The other thing about the sweater too is, Kelly, you and I talked about this, that Mark likes his sweaters to be very slim fitting. Mm-hmm. He's slim and he likes slim fitting sweaters. I think because this wool it's worsted weight, and it's a very woolly wool, the kind I think you probably would want to wear over a flannel shirt.
Yeah.
I think he's going to want more ease in it than he thinks he wants, because the sweater does say, the pattern says 3 to 5 inches of positive ease, and I think he's going to want that. So we're having we're in discussion right now. And then, and I'll talk more about this too when I start doing it, but I think Jared Flood is also the designer of the other sweater that I made for Mark, which I'm now drawing a blank on it. What was that blue one I made for him? Oh, here it is, Cobblestone. The sweater is designed that you do a tubular cast on at the bottom of the sweater, do the ribbing and knit up to the armholes, put the body aside, do the same thing with the sleeves and attach them, and then do the yoke. But I found I did not do that with Cobblestone. What I did is a provisional cast on for the body, knit up to the armholes, provisional cast on for the sleeves, did stockinette up to the armholes, attached the sleeves, did the yoke, and then I went back and I actually had to knit some stockinette down before I did the ribbing to get the correct length. And because what I find interesting about this method that the pattern says is, how do you know where the armhole is going to fit? Is it going to be, an inch from the armpit or 2 inches from the armpit? So, and that makes a difference on how long the sleeve is going to be, right? Depending on where the armhole hits on your body. So I can't really wrap my head around doing that method. I think, so I'm going to do this method.
I think it worked with. I think it's a good idea that you had when you did that last sweater.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do on that one. And then that's it for me for projects.
All right. Well, you have more than I do. I did spin a 4-ounce braid, which was good. I had done a little bit of spinning for the last episode with that Santa Cruz Island, which I need to talk about a little bit more. But I had a Perendale braid, and Perendale is a kind of a medium, I would say a medium to long wool, a little more woolly than Corriedale, which I consider to be usually like a medium wool, a little less against the skin than a Corriedale. I probably wouldn't make a hat out of this, but it's not as coarse as I thought it was going to be, just based on what I had read about Perendale. But I got this braid from Sheep Spot, and she has a lot of interesting breeds to select from. And I had bought this last year. I think I bought it when I was buying prizes for the spin-in. I bought it for myself. But anyways, blue and yellow, and then of course green where the blending happened in the braid. And I decided to do it as a fractal. It's a 3-ply fractal spin. So just to describe what that is, the way I got ready to spin this, for those of you who don't know, I divided the braid into 3 parts because I was going to make a 3-ply. So vertically stripped it into 3 parts vertically. And then one part, I just spun it straight from the start to the finish. I didn't do anything different. I just spun that. And so that gave me relatively long color repeats. My sections of color were pretty long. And then the second bobbin, I took one of those strips that I had stripped out, and I had weighed them, and they were all roughly the same weight. I had to make a little bit of an adjustment as I was pulling it apart to make sure that I got this, equal sizes. The second one, I then split that one into 2 pieces vertically. So I had thinner strips, and I spun those, and I spun, the first one end to end, and then got the second one end to end. And I kept track of what order, what was the start of it and what was the end of it.
Right.
And so my color repeats are less, right? They're smaller because the piece of fiber that I was spinning from was more slender. And then the third bobbin, I did exactly the same thing, but this time I did it in 3 parts. Yeah, 3 parts. And so it was 1/3 of the braid split lengthwise. And then I took that 1/3 and I divided it again into 3 parts.
Okay.
And spun that. So now my color repeats are even smaller. So I've got 1 bobbin with longer color repeats, 1 bobbin with a little bit shorter color repeats, and then 1 bobbin with even shorter color repeats, and I applied those together. And that's what they call fractal spinning. I'm really pleased with the skein. I'm not sure it looks any different than if I just spun randomly, and then applied it together. But when it stripes up, when you knit it up, it does have a different. I've seen in a couple of books or articles about fractal spinning compared to other ways of managing the color in your braid. It does look a little bit different when you knit it up. So it will be a little bit stripy when I knit it up, but pretty blended. I mean, there's a couple of sections that are all blue and a couple of sections that are all yellow. And mostly it comes out, it reads green, even though the braid by itself, just looking at it, was more blue. This yarn actually reads more green when you look at it, but it came out really nicely, and I applied it kind of loosely. I didn't apply too tight. I usually like to apply tightly, but since Perendale is kind of a longer staple, I thought, well, I'm going to apply it more like a long wool without so much ply twist in it. So that's what I did, and I'm really happy with it. So that was kind of a fun experiment. And then I took what was left. I'm not sure I'm going to have enough to really be able to tell, but I took what was left over after the first bobbin ran out, and then I just applied a 2-ply because I want to do a little swatch of each and compare the 2-ply fractal to the 3-ply fractal spin. But I am going to do a little swatch of both of these so that people can see the difference, and I can see the difference between a 2-ply fractal and a 3-ply fractal. The one thing that you will definitely be able to tell is there's not as much color variation in the 2-ply, partly because it was only 2 bobbins worth of color playing together, right? And partly because there was only a very little left on the bobbin. So, it didn't really have enough yarn to get all the way through all the different colors. But anyway, it'll be an interesting little experiment to make a swatch with both of those and compare them side by side.
Yeah.
So that was my spinning. I did, going back to the Santa Cruz Island fleece, I was so excited because I had emptied bobbins of the Santa Cruz Island, and I was like, okay, I can call that finished. Even though I still have some fleece left, but it's like, okay, I can call that spinning project finished, right? Yeah. I was looking around in my stash for what else I had that I could just do a quick little spin with. And I found 2 about third full bobbins of Santa Cruz Island singles. 2, not 3, 2.
Oh.
And I want to make, to match the yarn I already had, I would make a 3-ply. Not that I really need any more of that. I was going to make socks with it, and I have plenty for a pair of socks, but just kind of like, oh no. So now I do have some more fiber that's already carded. I did find that too when I was digging around. So I will spin the yarn that I have, or the fiber that I have that's already carded, and spin a 3rd bobbin and ply that off. I just want to be done with this project. But, the little bits that I didn't want to throw away on those other 2 bobbins are insignificant compared to the amount that's on these 2 bobbins.
Right.
In comparison, I could have easily thrown that away. But anyway, I now have another Santa Cruz Island job to do. So I will do that. I like that fleece. It's really fine. It's tricky to spin. I mean, I have to do, I talked last time how I really am doing kind of an inchworming technique. And then I have to stop and pull out little neps of tangled fiber every so often. So it's not exactly rhythmic Zen spinning.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I did no knitting and crocheting in my, since the last time we talked. I mean, I didn't even do any. I finished the last dishcloth, and I didn't even knit anymore on those. So that's kind of strange. But I've been doing a lot of dog training. Nothing formal, not any real formal stuff, but walks and trying to keep them from fence fighting. And so Barry's here, sort of crunched into the corner where I'm recording right now. So where I am, Marsha, in the dressing room.
Right.
Well, he could be lengthwise and have plenty of room, but he's crosswise, so his head is jammed up against the cabinet, and his rear end is jammed up against the closet. The size of him is, the whole width of this little dressing room area. So, but he's snoring, so he's happy. He doesn't mind being crunched in the corner here.
Well, and he can probably curl up into a tighter ball now because he's lost so much weight.
Yes, right? Yes. He had a vet appointment last week. And so we got to, get him weighed and get his results of his thyroid test and all that. He had a new thyroid test. But yes, he's now 113 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. So just to kind of recap for people, when he got to the SPCA in January, he was 163 pounds. When we brought him home, he was 133 pounds. And now he's 113 pounds. Wow. It was about
pounds.
7.5 weeks that he lost the 20 pounds.
No, wait a minute. Did I say 50 pounds? Yeah, it's 50. He's lost 50 pounds.
Yeah, he's lost 50 pounds.
Wow.
So he's got another probably 10 to go, maybe. I don't know. At first I thought he was shepherd and just heavy and he could be probably 90 pounds would be his final weight. But he may be crossed. Well, we talked about that.
Yeah.
He's
big. He's
yeah.
just big boned, you know.
He's got something in him that makes him bigger. So it may be that he only has another 10 or so pounds to go. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the vet was really happy, and his thyroid is stable. It's in good. It's all in the good ranges, and vet said keep doing what you're doing, which is a lot of exercise and training and organized, chewing activity like the frozen Kongs and filled with dog food mush.
You like my comment?
Yes, doggy milkshake. Yum.
You posted that on Instagram, and it was like everyone thought, "Oh, it looks like milkshake."
Yeah.
Knowing what's in it, I think it looks disgusting.
Yeah. It is. But
dogs love it.
It is pretty disgusting. I have some turkey fat from, and Betty made a turkey breast roast last night for dinner. So I have some turkey pan drippings that are going to go in the next version, the next round of the frozen Kongs. And it's funny because, I wanted that magic bullet so that I could, make smoothies and stuff. And I got it one year for Christmas, and I did use it for the first year. But, before we got Bailey, it hadn't been out of the cupboard for months and months and months. Mm-hmm. And now that's what I use it for, making dog milkshakes to pour into the Kong to put in the freezer. So anyway, yeah. The dogs are getting healthy. I don't know about me.
Yeah.
I'm not having my kale smoothies anymore.
That's really good news.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is good news because I'm sure he feels so much better and he can move so much better. And he had the senior dog blood panel because, they told us he was 8 at the SPCA, but I have never had an 8-year-old dog acting this lively. And I'm pretty sure he's not 8. I mean, just watching him with Bailey and the constant playing that they do and all just the things that he's doing now is like, okay, this dog is not 8. I just can't believe it. And his teeth, you can't always tell by their teeth. Yeah.
We had one dog whose teeth were good for her whole life. And then the other dogs, their teeth got bad right away. So you can't really tell, but his teeth are good and his energy level is high. So I just think he's not 8. But there's no way to know except how long he lives,
Yeah.
If he lives another 10 years, then he's definitely not 8.
Yes. Yeah.
But we won't know that.
Yeah.
So.
Huh.
So anyway, Barry's doing great. He starts obedience class at the SPCA on Saturday. And I got an email with homework. It was like 10 videos. I was like, oh my God, I have to watch 10 videos because I am not a video learning person. But I did. I watched them. They were all really short, but they were good. So I have homework before we go to our class. So he's supposed to be doing his name and, responding to his name and a couple of other things that I need to do. I have been working on down with him, but he doesn't like to lay down. I mean, he lays down just fine when he wants to.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
But he doesn't follow a treat to go down, which I've never had a dog that wouldn't do that.
So that's interesting that he doesn't do that.
He pops up, and I've tried all kinds of different ways to keep his rear end from popping up, and it doesn't seem to work. So I need some tips and tricks from the trainer on that. When we go to class, maybe. I've been just waiting, mostly just waiting until he's tired. And then I tell him to sit, and then I just stand there. And then when he does finally lay down, I tell him down. He's getting there, but that's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, he doesn't really like to be told what to do.
Right. That is true. Yeah. He's getting better, but yeah.
He didn't come that way.
No.
He's learning, but
yeah. He's learning. He's doing some crate training now too. He's doing great now that he can, he's thin enough that he can actually turn around in the crate. He's using the Wolfhound crate, and he fits great. and he goes in there just fine. And he's quiet and he doesn't break the crate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a nice fresh breath of fresh air compared to Bailey. So.
Well, good. That's really good to hear. I mean, I think that's just really good news that he's lost so much weight and his panels are all good.
Yeah, his health.
Great.
Yeah, his health is doing really well. So.
Yeah.
Well, now that we've talked about all our projects, including our plumbing and dogs and all of that kind of stuff, we have a summer spin-in topic for everybody.
Yes. So we thought we would talk about the whole process of selecting a fleece and where to buy a raw fleece. And so let's just dive right in.
Okay. And before we do that, though, I just want to remind people that if you are going to be working with raw fleece, you should just make sure that your tetanus shot is up to date.
Oh, that's a good idea. I wouldn't even have thought about that.
It seems like every time you have an injury of any kind that could be tetanus related, they give you a tetanus shot anyway, even if you just had one almost. But you should have had a tetanus shot, I would say, because it's easy to have a puncture wound. Using carding equipment or wool combs or being stuck with a sticker in your fleece. It's easy for that to happen. So anyway,
that's a good idea.
Public service
that's a great
announcement.
Yes, that's good because I would not have thought about that. So, and you can probably just get that at the pharmacy, don't you? Like you can get so many vaccines now just at the pharmacy. I wonder if you can get a tetanus.
Maybe, yeah, probably.
I don't know. I'll have to look into that. Okay, so how about selecting a fleece? How do you start just buying a fleece? What do you look for?
Well,
Kelly, any thoughts?
I tried to buy a fleece this morning from Instagram. And I don't think I'm going to get it because there was somebody else who was interested in it before me. But so what did I look for? Well, it was a Wensleydale cross, which means it was a long wool, which always attracts me. Seeing those long curly locks just gets me. So that's what I look for. It was 6 pounds, which is a decent size. Again, that's what I look for. I'm not one to buy fleece, I'll just take a pound of that, or, it's a 3 pound fleece. No, 6 pounds is a good size for a fleece. It's kind of like cones of yarn, big and juicy. So that was an attraction. And then it was gray, which is also an attraction for me. So long wool, gray, 6 pounds. And the price was right. It was priced at $50, which is about $8 a pound. And I think that's pretty, I think that's excellent. And then plus shipping. So, for a long wool, that's a good price. You're not going to find a merino at that price, but
right.
But for a long wool. So that's what I looked for. I wasn't thinking of a project. I wasn't imagining what I was going to do with it. Nothing like that. It was just like, pretty, long, curly, good price, buying.
Well, I will confess, before we really get into this, I will confess that online doing some research, I was looking at producers and Etsy, and there was many that I wanted to click buy.
Yeah.
But I had to restrain myself. And what really gets me, and this is excellent marketing, and if there's any producers who listen to this, this is excellent. This is how you get people to click buy, is if you have a photograph of the sheep that the fleece came from, or just the name of the sheep. Makes me want to buy it, because there's like this, I don't know, it's just sort of, it's like a story, and anytime there's a story about a product, I get more tempted to buy it. And
it's the same as a yarn having a name like Mock Rocks Beach, as opposed to the colorway.
Or San Francisco Fog. I bought San Francisco Fog because I like the name.
As opposed to color number 5973. Right.
Or I remember
Blue.
this is now I'm getting a little off the topic of buying a fleece, but I remember one time at Stitches, I do not need another skein of hand-dyed sock yarn, but I bought one because the name of it was Comic-Con and I was drunk.
Yes.
So I had to buy it.
Right.
So, if there's a backstory or something, it's really very appealing for me anyway, personally. But, but what I was going to say, the first thing is was going to say is online, there's the Livestock Conservancy has an article about selecting a raw fleece. And I would really recommend that because it talks all about staple length, coated versus not coated.
Yeah.
What else, Kelly? It talks about the different
health of it, like looking at the
right.
locks. What's the strength of the lock or the health of the sheep?
It talks about the different breeds, and that's just a great source. I think just start there.
Yeah.
You get much better information than what we could, and concise information than what we could give in just the podcast. But I think that's excellent. And the other thing we were sort of talking to before we started recording about, let me just back up. The first time I bought a fleece, I was like, this is what I want to make out of that fleece. I'm going to buy that. I think I bought a Shetland fleece at Black Sheep Gathering, and I didn't know anything. I take that back. It wasn't, it was, I split it with a woman down there, and it was, now I don't remember now. I think it was like a Merino Corriedale mix, I think, or something. And I didn't know anything. And I just thought, okay, I'm going to buy this. And then this is what I'm going to make out of it. Well, I don't think that really is, maybe if you're really knowledgeable, you can get to the point where you can look at a fleece and know how it's going to spin up and know what you're going to make out of it. But I kind of think as a beginner, you probably just have to buy the fleece that you like. And after you wash and card it and spin it, it will then tell you what you should make out of it.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you may have an idea that you want to have a yarn that really blooms, but that particular fiber is not going to do that. So it doesn't mean that's going to end up being a bad. It's just a yarn that's not. It's going to be a beautiful yarn that's for another purpose.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, so my love. When I see fleeces that are silver gray, long wool, so that would not be a good choice if what I wanted to make was a light fluffy cardigan, like my funky grandpa sweater. If that was what I wanted to make, that would be the wrong choice. If I'm going to buy a Romney, for example, long wool, I might be able to make like a coat kind of sweater, cardigan, or blanket, or you do some weaving with it, weave a blanket, but I'm not going to be able to make a light, fluffy cardigan out of a Romney wool. Yeah. So a lot of it depends on what it is you want to do with it. I mean, my advice is you just spin to spin, right? And see what happens. And so my advice would be for first spinners, it would be to try all the ones that you look at it and you love it. Yeah. Like if it sings to you and you go, oh my God, it's so gorgeous, get it. If the price is right and you're up for the adventure, I would say just go ahead and get it. And then you'll see what the yarn is that it makes. And you don't have to spin the whole thing. You can, and you don't have to buy the whole thing. Sometimes you can split fleeces with somebody, or you can, I know on Etsy, you can buy, sometimes people are selling them by the pound. And so you can buy just a pound of a particular kind of fleece. So, yeah. If
you do buy a whole fleece, though, I think there's a couple things to sort of keep in mind. Find out if it's been skirted. And that's when they remove all of the wool that's not really usable and the tags, which is manure. And you can buy a fleece that has all of that, but just know that you're going to be throwing away a lot that you're paying for, right? It's, So
if you're searching on Etsy, I would say one of the things to put in your search is spinning or hand spinning, just to make sure that you're gonna get something that people are at least calling a hand spinner's fleece. Although we'll talk later. I found a great article on those bargain fleeces or free fleeces and how do you make sure that you can you use a fleece like that. So
yeah. And then the other thing, and I've never had this experience, but they talked about it at the when we went to the Black Sheep gathering. Well, what they had said, and people who were there, the general consensus is if you're buying a fleece that's been part of a show, you're going to get a good fleece. Just because people have carefully prepped them for showing,
spent money to put them in the show,
right? So they're yes, there's an investment to show them, and so you really couldn't go wrong buying any of those. Yeah. We did have, though, do you remember the one judging where the fleece had an odor to it, like a sour odor or something? And they said that there was, I don't remember now what was wrong with it. But I guess what I would take, the takeaway from that is smell the fleece. If it just doesn't smell like that delicious, wonderful, which we like, some people hate, but we like that lanolin woolly smell, then avoid that one. If it has any kind of weird sour or off-putting odor that doesn't,
like a dirty dishcloth.
So anyway, I was going to say that I think that the Livestock Conservancy website is really good, and we'll have the link in the show notes.
Yeah.
And also the Spinner's Book of Fleece by Beth Smith is really good,
and that can help you know like what kinds of fleeces will do what kinds of things, what breeds will do what kinds of things. Is it a medium fleece? Would it make that fluffy cardigan? Is it better for outerwear? Will it be just good for rugs and blankets? It will give you a good idea of that.
Yeah.
The other thing to think about too is what kind of preparation you're going to, what kind of ability do you have to wash it? So like if you're going to buy, if you don't have a good capacity to wash a fleece and you're going to have to wash it, little by little, and you're not sure how it's going to work, you might not want to buy a really greasy fleece like a merino. You might want to, if you do buy a fleece like that, you might want to have someone else, have it processed, or even just washed by a processor. I mean, that's a possibility that you can have a processor just wash your fleece and send it back to you clean. Just because that does take a lot of water, a lot of soap, a lot of time to get all that grease out of the fleece. And so depending on what your washing situation is, you might be better off having a fleece that's not quite as greasy. So the article that I did find about the kind of fleece that I've always liked, the bargain fleece, is called The Great Fleece Makeover, and it's by Amanesia Hopkins in Spinoff Magazine. And she talks about 3 different fleeces that she had, and they were, dirty in different ways. They were flawed in different ways. And yet she was still able to make beautiful yarn out of them. Time, there's a time investment to that. If you have, so for a lot of people, any kind of veg matter in their fleece, stickers, hay, anything like that is just a no-go. And I've never been like that. That has never been something that I totally just, am put off by. And I think partly because when I started spinning, coated fleeces were very rare. And so, you always had some of that in your fleeces. But now with coated fleeces, you can get, really pristine fleeces without any of these problems. But you pay the price, right? So if you get a free fleece or you have the opportunity to get some fleece for a very good price, I would really recommend this article, The Great Fleece Makeover. So you can see, what kind of things does she look at? And what kind of things does she do? Wool combs is what she uses because they take out a lot of the garbage. The short cuts of wool, the really short pieces. If the shearing is inconsistent, take out a lot of the vegetable matter. There's a lot of that. And make a really nice preparation. So wool combs are a really good thing to have if you're interested in working with the bargain fleeces. A carder also gets out a lot of the stuff that's in it, a drum carder or hand cards, but not as much as combs do. So anyway, that's a good article that I would recommend to people looking for a fleece. But there's just something about walking around a fleece fiber festival, looking at all the fleeces and just falling in love with one. And if that doesn't happen to you, then maybe you're just not a spinner for fleeces, for raw fleeces, right? If you can walk through a fiber festival and you don't feel drawn to fork over money for at least, 3 or 4 of them and have to rein yourself in, then, maybe braids are your jam, and that's okay. Processed fiber might just be what you are in love with.
Well, and the thing about the processed fiber, you said about time, and like you can just start.
Right.
Like that, and that's nice. Like I've used, it's all been, commercially processed roving that I've used for the combo spins.
Yeah, I'm in a really bad place right now because this Perrindale was my last dyed braid. I have a couple of braids of Cooperth that are natural color, and that's it. So I don't have anything that I can just grab and spin, which is kind of on purpose because I have a lot of stuff that I need to process. So how do you buy one? If you are going to fall in love, if you think you might fall in love, where would you find those fleeces?
Well, so the first place I know where I bought all of mine was going to some sort of festival. So now the pandemic has changed all of this because a lot of these festivals are not happening. Yeah. But so Black Sheep Gathering is always in June, but that's also been canceled. But a lot of them have online sales. Yes. Or a list of the producers, and you can contact the different producers. So we have links to the Black Sheep Gathering in the show notes. There's the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival. Kelly, you added the Oregon Flock and Fiber in October. Is that on?
It's on.
Is that
and they've moved it to Albany. So it's in the same location as where Black Sheep Gathering was the last time we were there.
Oh, Kelly.
I know.
Maybe.
It's a possibility.
Oh, but school's in session. Oh, no, but you're...
Yeah, but I'm online.
Oh, Kelly.
So there's there's a possibility.
Oh, okay.
And then...
Anyway, there's...
Vermont Sheep and Wool Festival is also happening in October. According to their website, they have date early October. Okay. So, and then... I found another one that's actually coming up fairly soon. That's the Natural Fiber Extravaganza in Lebanon, Tennessee. And it's July 9th through 11th. It's mostly looks like alpaca. It's put on by an alpaca association. But that looked interesting if you're in that part of the country. And then I also found Knitter's Review has a fiber festival directory. And I put the link to that in the show notes as well. A lot of them, when you go to the website, you see the 2020 information and you see canceled. But if you're willing to search out your area, if you're looking for a particular area, you can, in a particular month, you can narrow it down pretty well to just look at the ones that are, pertinent to you and see if they have them. And then our county fair last year, I kind of spaced and didn't even think about it, but the Monterey County Fair last year, they had their wool show, their wool auction. They just had the auction online.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, and then you had either pickup or shipping of the fleece that you had bought. I didn't even know about it until, after it was already done is when I realized.
And I know the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival. That one, actually, I think that was in May that it didn't actually happen, but it was all online. But you could check it out and see if there's still things available. And as I say, all the vendors are still selling their fleeces. So,
yeah, the listing of vendors is the nice thing. In these websites. So yeah, check out your county fair website. And then the other thing I just put in there, I know we've talked about the Shave 'em to Save 'em, and that's through the Livestock Conservancy, the same website that Marsha mentioned about selecting a fleece. But they have a directory, and you can find different, the rare breed fleeces there. Mm-hmm. And then also there's the Fiber Shed directory. California has the Fiber Shed. I think Canada has a Fiber Shed organization. I don't know if other areas have a Fiber Shed organization, but if you have a Fiber Shed in your area, you can look at their website, and they usually will have a directory of producers of all kinds of things, not just wool, but I think there's a hemp farm and a flax farm on the Fiber Shed directory. And so there are some other websites. So lots of resources in this set of show notes.
So, and I also just Googled where to buy a raw fleece.
Oh,
and the first one that came up was a farm in, it said the Finger Lakes region of Western New York State. It's called Nistock Farms, or Nistock. It's Nistock Farms. And you have to reserve the fleece, but they still have some available. But it was interesting. They have an interesting website just to read it too, because they have a lot of information about processing, washing fleeces. They also are part of the livestock. They're members of the Livestock
Conservancy.
Thank you. And they talk a lot about how important it is to keep their flock healthy, so they no longer take their sheep to be judged at shows, because they don't want to expose them to all the different diseases that sheep can get, apparently. And they don't bring in rams from outside the farm for breeding. They just have their own rams. And now I'm getting to something I really don't know anything about, but the breeding of sheep, you can't breed them too many times because you have to bring in new genetics. Right. So when they do bring in a new ram, they have to be quarantined. They're tested, and then they have to be quarantined for a certain amount of time before they get enter the breeding program. Very, very interesting. I mean, if you want to go really deep into it, very interesting website. And then the other one I found, and I just think this is just sweet. And Kelly, you said we had talked about this before, but the Sanctuary Wool home website, they're located in Wisconsin, and their fleeces are from rescued sheep. This is the one where they have their pictures and names, which
I'm looking at them right now. Oh my gosh!
Yes, and I know.
Good looking fleeces too. I know when we first mentioned them, one of the caveats was, we had not bought fleeces from them. And I don't know if they even had a website at that time, or I don't think it had any pictures. So it was kind of, I don't know what this wool will be like, but here's some information about it. But these look beautiful. East Frisian Polypay. And that's another thing that gets me. A breed I haven't spun before.
Yes.
When I see a breed, that's how I ended up with the Santa Cruz Island fleece, right? It's rare, and I had never spun it, and it was just intriguing. And this one is also intriguing. East Frisian Polypay.
Yeah, what is that? I know there's Frisian horses, because I think they're from Holland.
You're asking me a question I don't know the answer to. I really don't know what an East Frisian sheep is, and I know Polypay is a relatively newer breed. Anyway, 1 pound 6 ounces for $18.
Wow.
Add to cart. It's the lamb's fleece. The locks average 4 inches long, and there is very minor debris remaining to remove. So I would say take a look at this. If you if you don't worry about the danger to your wallet, take a look at this website.
Well, and there was another, I don't know if it was this website or there's another website I was looking at, and what I wanted to put in cart was, and the name of the sheep was something like Big Gal or something like that. Anyway, but she was an older sheep. And so they said as she's gotten older, more and more gray hair is in the fleece.
Oh.
And that one, I just like, oh, I want that.
Yeah.
Because of her story. She's just this old lady, you know, and I kind of wanted the old lady fleece. But anyway, silly.
Sally Fox on her Veresis website would sometimes have her older sheep fleece. And she would describe it in such a way that just made you want to buy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Very good marketing.
Yes.
For those of us with no self-control.
I'm clicking closed now. I'm having self-control because I already tried to buy one this morning. I do not need any more fleece. Yeah. Right? How many do you think I have in my garage? I
don't know because I know how many I have.
I think I might have 10.
I think. Oh, Kelly. I think I have 8.
Oh. Mm-hmm. You know what? True confessions will be next episode.
Actually, I take that back. I think I have 9 because I think I'm not counting the my friend in my knitting group gave me the alpaca fleece.
Oh, right.
So I don't think I'm counting that one. And that thing's a monster. It's huge. I didn't know alpaca had such big fleece, but this thing seems huge. I don't know what I don't know.
Wow.
In fact, I was hoping during this, our summer spin in that obviously I can't wash and card all of it, but just some of it, just because I've never spun alpaca. So anyway, the other place to buy too, Kelly, is I didn't even think about this. You would recommend it, but it was Etsy. Mm-hmm. So that was another thing that I started doing a deep dive into Etsy, and there's tons and tons and tons of fleeces on Etsy.
And if you know the name of the farm, that's a good way to look, online. I follow some farms on Instagram. And so, I follow them for, they might have lamb for sale, or they might just post nice pictures, but some of them, if you go to their website, will have, might have some fleeces for sale, or might have processed fleece for sale. So that's another resource too. If you're still not able to find a fleece, there's another way.
Anything else you want to add about like where to buy a fleece?
Another thing to look at is fiber mills. So Valley Oak Wool Mill. Okay. She's the one that posted this morning about the fleece that I almost bought. Markale at Valley Oak Wool Mill, but she also has roving that she sells. She doesn't usually sell fleeces. She's helping someone else sell a fleece, but she does have roving. And so if you have a wool mill that you know about near you, or, that you follow on Instagram or whatever, check out their website and see if they have their own roving for sale, and you can buy already processed fleece from them. You don't just have to buy a fleece and send it to be processed. You can just buy wool that's been processed. Mm-hmm. So, your local, if you have some local mills, you can take a look and see if they have anything on their website. But then there's also those people who, when there's a real nice thing about grabbing a braid and starting to spin. And my recent purchases, I mentioned Sheep Spot already. And I purchased a couple of braids of fiber the other day, which I think are going to be prizes, from Sincere Sheep. Her fiber is locally sourced. And then I also love the colors that Huckleberry Knits has. That's up by you. Up in Washington, and there are lots of other people who have braids, but these are some examples of places that I've recently purchased.
The other thing I forgot to mention this is spinning guilds. Mm-hmm. Sometimes somebody will have something that they want to sell, or they know a producer that has too many, and they're just looking for, like, maybe they'll give it to you, but if you pay for the shipping,
right.
But that's also a resource. So I belong to the Northwest Spinners Association here in the Pacific Northwest, and they have a Facebook group. And a lot of times they're posting things. They post things, funny article, or funny spinning cartoons and stuff, and then interesting articles. Sometimes equipment for sale, and then sometimes there's been fleeces too. That's another good source just to find. They're all good sources. So
yeah. Yeah, we have lots of ways to make your money fly out of your wallet.
Really? Anything else on this topic?
I think just the main thing is that, if you're interested in that process, that, fleece to fiber, that whole, the whole spectrum of the process, I would say it's definitely worth doing once. And after you do it, you'll know what parts of the process you like and what parts of the process you don't like. And then you can, you can decide, no, I'm just going to buy already processed braids of fiber, or I like washing fleece, but I have to wash it in small batches. So I'm only going to buy fleece by the pound. I'm not going to buy entire fleeces. Or you could be like me. And if it's 10 pounds, that's even better. And so you really want it. The bigger the fleece, the more attractive it is.
But that is true. Like that was when we went to, I don't remember, I think it was the Monterey County Fair, and they had the auction. We got a really good deal on those. Like, remember we got a 10-pound fleece or something, or a 12-pound fleece. I mean, it was huge.
It was big.
Some massive fleece that we got. And it was really quite inexpensive. And part of the reason is because it is so much. A hand spinner.
Right.
For a hand spinner to go through 10 pounds of fleece.
Yeah.
Now, granted, one thing we didn't say is when you do buy a fleece too, that when you wash it, you do lose, the weight will go down, right? Because that weight is debris in the grease.
And when you card it, if you do your own processing, or if you send it out to be processed, when you card it, there will also be waste. So you could lose, as much as half by the time you, half or more, by the time you, skirt it, wash it, process it, and have it ready to spin.
Because every time you do something to it, you lose something.
Right. So I carded yesterday. I have an Oxford fleece that I started carding yesterday. Oh, I didn't put that in my projects. And I carded, I picked, which means you pull the fiber apart. I picked and put through the drum carder once, 100 grams. So I decided I was just going to do it in 100-gram batches. So I did 100 grams. And then I put it through the carder. And when it got through the carder, it was only, when it got, done being carded the first time, now it's only 95 grams. And I'm going to put that through the carder probably 2 more times just to get it really nice. And by the time I do that, I'll probably be down to, 75 or 80 grams. But yeah, the big fleeces are attractive to me, but they're not attractive to everyone. It's helpful if you have a friend who will split it with you, right, Marsha?
Yeah.
So
I'm always willing to split. So,
all right. Well, I think that's a good amount of information for someone who was interested in how to go about purchasing a fleece for the first time. And what are we going to talk about next time? Do you remember?
So the next episode, we're going to talk about carding a fleece, blending, prepping, and processing.
Okay.
So that's the plan.
All right.
So
good.
We have to do some research, Kelly.
Yes. Well, I have one on the carder right now, so I'll research.
Yeah.
I'll do my research. Partly do my research that way.
Okay.
Cool.
All righty. Okay. Well, with that, we'll say goodbye.
All right.
We'll talk in 2 weeks.
Okay, bye.
Thank you so much for listening. To subscribe to the podcast, visit 2ewesfiberadventures.com.
Join us on our adventures on Ravelry and Instagram. I am betterinmotion, and Kelly is 100 Projects.
Until next time, we're the 2 Ewes
doing our part for World Fleece.